Hello, everybody. I hope you're all having a wonderful time zone. And if not, well, I hope I can do it. I hope I can make it just a little bit better. For those of you who have been here before, my name is Morden, your resident old man, voice-side mechanic, variety streamer, voice actor. I go by he, him, and welcome on in. Today, we are continuing part 3 of our, I don't know how many parts it's going to be, reading of Dracula. I just found out that there is a writing and reading subsection of Twitch. I assumed that there was something. It wasn't just strictly, whatchamacallit, just chatting. And I thought, well, hey, you know what? Maybe this is what it's going to be. So I think it's not a bad category. It's supposed to be in the creative section. So here we are. And I think it fits under creative. I mean, there's makers and crafting, miniatures and models. I've done miniatures and models before. Technically done miniatures and crafting, but I was really doing miniatures and models. Software and game development. I don't think I'm ever going to do that one. Art, possibly. Food and drink, beauty and body art. That one, probably not. Lego and brick build. Oh, Lego has its own subsection. I could have done a Lego stream. Well, Lego and brick building may not have existed when I did the Legos last time, but hey, whatever. I do need to do another model at some point. I was holding off on doing another model kit until after I was done with Cele, until after I was done with the one with Cele, because I want to get that one done first. But there's been all kinds of scheduling conflicts, so that one hasn't happened just yet. Still, though, I do look forward to actually completing that one. And I'll probably start another one up rather soon. Of course, first we got to get through this book. We're only at chapter 9 out of a total of 27 chapters. 27 chapters. Maybe 28. I'll have to check. I mean, I'll be honest, the difference between 27 and 28 is kind of minor, all things considered. Once you've gotten a certain number of chapters down, there's a lot. There's just a lot. And that's fine. I don't have an issue with that. Now, I do have to apologize if there's anything that is not working today. I do intend to turn the sound alerts off. Let me make a post about that. But I updated Windows today, and I updated OBS today. Now, I'm hoping... Oh, wait, hold on a second. I don't... Is it... Oh, I have to see if the captions are working. Are the captions working? Captions, can you see? No? Ah, curses. All right, hold on a second. Okay, and they're still not working. Oh dear. Oh my goodness. Oh wait, there they go. Bark, bark. All right, hold on. Gremlin is making bark, bark, but I had to update from Windows 10 to Windows 11 today because today is the cutoff. I also updated OBS, which broke my captions, but apparently they're working again, so that's good. I have no idea if they've been broken the last few streams or not. I do apologize if any of my streams are without captions, but here we are. So I've updated everything. Everything should be working right. If anything is not working right, please do let me know. I mean, obviously nothing on Twitch's side should be changed, but OBS changed, Windows changed. I spent some time making sure all my Windows settings were right enough, and my OBS settings are right enough. But if I run into any problems, I do apologize. I will try and solve them as soon as I can. But yeah, we are doing more horror reading because Dracula is good horror. I'm enjoying it so far. And it's got, I think, a really good sense of like pacing and dread going for it, which is really nice. Like it's, I don't know. I like slow burn dread, even though this isn't quite slow burn because it starts off with, you know, this is slowly getting worse and worse. I guess it's kind of slow burn. I don't know. I also think like I need to go back and like look at all the different older versions of Dracula that have existed in the movies and whatnot, because so far I'm not seeing a lot of the descriptions from the book coming through to the movies. Like the one from the Bram Stoker's Dracula from the 90s or whatever. The Dracula there does not match the Dracula that is described here. Very much, if at all, I'll be honest. Though, admittedly, the hairy palms thing was just weird. I don't know what it is about the hairy palms thing for superstition. Like that particular thing of like you've got hair on your palms. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I know it's meant to show something unnatural, but it feels like it would look weird, if that makes sense, and not like scary weird, just like, oh, that's unnatural. Like, oh, you got hair on the palm of your hands. Well, okay, cool. Like, I can see that being annoying, right? Because if you're gripping something and you've got hair on the parts where you're gripping, like that's going to agitate the hair, and it's going to be hard to hold on to things, which is why most animals, even ones with fur, will have pads on their feet, or just hairless parts on their palms of their hands, because they're constantly coming into contact with something that's going to rub all the hair off, and hair doesn't do well when being in direct contact with solid objects. So I don't know, just it's always struck me as a weird thing. Like, again, I get it, it's supposed to be like some kind of weird thing, and just like, oh, it's not natural, but was it meant to actually like represent that they don't use their hands, or that they're more monstrous, or having more bestial features? I'm not sure. Regardless, because the big thing is that in this story, they describe Dracula as having a long white mustache, and in the movie, as I recall, he's pretty clean shaven, which means, for those of you following the game at home, the fate apocrypha version of Vlad the Impaler and Dracula are actually more canonical than the movie versions. So take that for whatever you will. I do not know what else to make of it, but enjoy. To that end, all these like weird. Why is Stormcloud, madam? No, stop doing that. No. I don't know what you think you're doing, but you need to not. Okay? No. Can you not? Can you perhaps don't? I would appreciate the no. Don't. Okay? Just relax. No. Hey. I'm giving you attention, right? Okay? But you're gonna not do that. You can be on my lap. You can get snuggles. You can get scritches. We can do this. That's fine. But not what you're doing. All right? I know you want attention. You want love. Look, I get the puppy's got a cake today and you didn't get a cake. You couldn't eat the cake. You're an obligate carnivore. They're not. And it was Potato's birthday today. So he got a cake. Hey, listen. Hey, look at me. You get fresh fish and chicken on your birthday. Okay? It just that day was months ago. All right? I'm trying to negotiate with my cat. It is not going well. I do apologize. All right, let's see here. Is the caption thing still up? All right. Cool. So,
it's dangerous to go alone. Take this.
Hi, Guy. Welcome in. You just continue getting swords. It is I don't know what the RNG is, but apparently it wants you to be well armed. I hope you're doing well. It's good to see you. But as I said, if there's anything wrong with stream today, I do apologize. But not only did I update Windows, I updated OBS. So I'm in it deep. Well supplied cavalry, infantry, everything, really. I mean, the question is, after a certain point, what kind of swords are you going to be getting? Like, what are we getting? Are we getting cavalry sabers? Are we getting spatha? Are we getting long swords, arming swords? I was actually interested because I have a friend who does what's called HEMA. For those of you who don't know, that's historical European martial arts, which is basically just a very fancy way of saying hitting each other with dull swords, which I respect. It's a fun little thing to do. And they, study a lot of historical training manuals to do all the various sword techniques. And what was interesting was I got to see a crossover episode, essentially, between somebody who does various Japanese sword martial arts. I don't remember the names off the top of my head, but it goes beyond just like kendo into I'm blanking on the thing, but and then watching them try to use European weapons and like instantly picking up based on the design how they're meant to be used. And it was so cool to see like martial artists from different parts of the world playing with weapons from other parts of the world they're not from and trying to see like, oh, that's how you use this. That's really interesting. My favorite was when he got his hands on a rapier. And he's just like, oh, this is mean. I like this. He's like, you can barely see it rust. This is amazing. It's also just kind of fun to see like the martial arts being taken from perspective of somebody who's not trying to actually kill, like people aren't actually trying to kill each other, and like just have respect for the form and the styles. It's really fun. I enjoy it. But yeah, we'll have to figure out the kinds of swords. I do eventually, like I said, want to set up like a whole mini game around it to see like who has the most well-stocked adventuring party and who can reach the deepest layers of the dungeon at the end of the year or something. That'd be kind of cool. Just check all the gotcha results that you get against a database and be like, okay, you've got this many party members from you must gather your party before venturing forth. You've got this many weapons from the it's dangerous to go alone, take this, and then assign like each one like a different benefit to the thing with increasing power for the increasing rarities. That'd be kind of fun. Of course, I have to get a bot that can actually recognize the different like responses, because right now, as far as chat is concerned, you're just playing the checking in sound alert, but the result you get from Twitch could be any one of 9 different alerts. So who knows? I'll get that actual text message up here. Excuse you? No, don't do that. Stormcloud is bumping the mic. I do apologize if that came through. Mm-mm. There we go. So let us move over and make sure everything is working over here. Okay, the eye tracking is up. I have maximized the screen, and now I'm going to turn off all the sounds other than my microphone. After all, I've now given everybody, I think, a reasonable amount of time to wander in for the first section. So, when we last left off, We had just finished chapter 8, where strange happenings had been occurring, including sleepwalking individuals with red eyes, and an old man who had a very curious accent, probably northern. Certainly the angle of accent I was aiming for, anyway. So, oh, and Mina had gotten a letter from her, well, not from her fiance, but from somebody who's taking care of her fiance. So here we go. Chapter 9. Letter Mina Harker to Lucy Western. Westenra. Budapest, 24th of August. My dearest Lucy, I know you will be anxious to hear all that has happened since we parted at the railway station at Whitby. Well, my dear, I got to Hull all right and caught the boat to Hamburg, and then the train on here. I feel that I can hardly recall anything of the journey, except that I knew I was coming to Jonathan, and that as I should have to do some nursing, I had better get all the sleep I could. I found my dear one, oh, so thin and pale and weak-looking. All of the resolution had gone out of his dear eyes, and that quiet dignity which I told you was in his face had vanished. He is only a wreck of himself, and he does not remember anything that has happened to him for a long time past. At least, he wants me to believe so, and I shall never ask. He has had some terrible shock, and I fear it might tax his poor brain if he were to try and recall it. Sister Agatha, who is a good creature and a born nurse, tells me that he raved of dreadful things whilst... Ooh, I'm having trouble keeping track of it. What's going on here? Tells me that he raved of dreadful things whilst he was off his head. I wanted her to tell me what they were, but she would only cross herself and say she would never tell, that the ravings of the sick were the secrets of God, and that if a nurse through her vocation should hear them, she should respect her trust. She is a sweet, good soul, and the next day, when she saw I was troubled, she opened up the subject again, and after saying that she could never mention what my poor dear raved about, added, I can tell you this much, my dear, that it was not about anything which he has done wrong himself, and you, his wife to be, have no cause to be concerned. He has not forgotten you or what he owes you. His fear was of great and terrible things which no mortal can treat of. I do believe the dear soul thought I might be jealous lest my poor dear should have fallen in love with any other girl. The idea of my being jealous about Jonathan. And yet, my dear, let me whisper, I felt a thrill of joy through me when I knew that no other woman was a cause of trouble. I am now sitting by his bedside, where I can see his face while he sleeps. He is waking. When he woke, he asked me for his coat, and he wanted to get something from the pocket. I asked Sister Agatha, and she brought all his things. I saw that amongst them was his notebook, and was going to ask him to let me look at it, for I knew then that I might find some clue to his trouble. But I suppose he must have seen such wish in my eyes, for he sent me over to the window, saying he wanted to be quite alone for a moment. Then he called me back, and when I came he had his hand over the notebook and said to me very solemnly, Wilhelmina. I knew then he was in deadly earnest, for he has never called me by that name since he asked me to marry him. You know, dear, my ideas of the trust between husband and wife. There should be no secrets, no concealment. I have had a great shock, and when I try to think of what it is, I feel my head spin round, and I do not know if it was all real or the dreaming of a madman. You know I have had brain fever and that it is to be bad. The secret is here, and I do not want to know it. I want to take up my life here with our marriage. For my dear, we had decided to be married as soon as the formalities are complete. Are you willing, Wilhelmina, to share my ignorance? Here is the book. Take it and keep it. Read it if you will, but never let me know, unless indeed some solemn duty should come upon me to go back to the bitter hours, asleep or awake, sane or mad, recorded here. He fell back exhausted, and I put the book under his pillow and kissed him. I have asked Sister Agatha to beg the Superior to let our wedding be this afternoon, and am waiting in her reply. She has come and told me that the chaplain of the English Mission Church has been sent for. We are to be married in an hour, or as soon after as Jonathan awakes. Lucy, the time has come and gone. I feel very solemn, but very, very happy. Jonathan woke a little after the hour, and all was ready, and he sat up in bed, propped up with pillows. He answered his "I will" firmly and strongly. I could hardly speak. My heart was so full that even those words seemed to choke me. The dear sisters were so kind. Please God, I shall never, never forget them, nor the grave and sweet responsibilities I have taken upon me. I must tell you of my wedding present. When the chaplain and the sisters had left me alone with my husband, oh, Lucy, it is the first time I have written the words "my husband" left me alone with my husband. I took the book from under his pillow and wrapped it up in white paper and tied it with a bit of pale blue ribbon which was round my neck, and sealed it over the knot with sealing wax. And for my seal I used my wedding ring. Then I kissed it and showed it to my husband, and told him that I would keep it so, and then it would be an outward and visible sign for us all our lives that we trusted each other, and I would never open it unless it was for his own dear sake or for the sake of some stern duty. He then took my hand in his, and oh, Lucy, it was the first time he took his wife's hand and said that it was the dearest thing in all the wide world, and that he would go through all the past again to win it if need be. The poor dear meant to have said a part of the past, but he cannot think of time yet, and I shall not wonder if at first he mixes up not only the month, but the year. Well, my dear, what could I say? I could only tell him that I was the happiest woman in all the wide world, and that I had nothing to give him except myself, my life, and my trust, and that with these went my love and duty for all the days of my life. And, my dear, when he kissed me, he drew me to him with his poor weak hands. It was like a very solemn pledge between us. Lucy, dear, do you know why I tell you all this? It is not only because it is all sweet to me, because you have been and are very dear to me. It was my privilege to be your friend and guide when you came from the schoolroom to prepare for the world of life. I wanted you to see now, and with the eyes of a very happy wife, whither duty has led me, so that in your own married life you too may be all happy as I am. My dear, please Almighty God, your life may be all it promises, a long day of sunshine with no harsh wind, no forgetting duty, no distrust. I must not wish you no pain, for that can never be, but I do hope you will always be as happy as I am now. Goodbye, my dear. I shall post this at once and perhaps write you very soon again. I must stop, for Jonathan is waiting. I must attend to my husband. Your ever loving Mina Harker. Oh, she's got it bad. Ew, gross. They love each other. Also, he's very lucky that he didn't start talking about the women who were trying to kiss him in front of the in front of the nun. That would have maybe soured the mood. Like, oh yes, dear. By the way, your husband was talking about being entranced by beautiful women who all tried to kiss him. Letter, Lucy Westenra to Mina Harker, Whitby, 30 August. Hold on, yes. He sent this letter on the 24th of August from Budapest, and it went all the way to Whitby in 7 days. That's impressive. I mean, I know this is an era where like trains were a thing, but still, that's pretty impressive. My dearest Mina, oceans of love and millions of kisses, and may you soon be in your own home with your husband. I wish you could be coming home soon enough to stay with us here. The strong air would soon restore Jonathan, as it has quite restored me. I have an appetite like a cormorant, am full of life, and sleep well. You will be glad to know that I have quite given up walking in my sleep. I think I have not stirred out of my bed for a week. That is when I once got into it at night. Arthur says I'm getting fat. By the way, I forgot to tell you that Arthur is here. We have such walks and drives and rides and rowing and tennis and fishing together, and I love him more than ever. He tells me that he loves me more, but I doubt that. For at first he told me that he couldn't love me more than he did then. But that is nonsense. There he is, calling to me. So no more present from your loving Lucy. Postscript. Mother sends her love. She seems better, poor dear. Postscript. We are to be married on the 28th of September. Dr. Seward's Diary. 20th of August. The case of Renfield grows even more interesting. He has now so far quieted that there are spells of cessation from his passion. For the first week after his attack, he was perpetually violent. Then, one night, just as the moon rose, he grew quiet and kept murmuring to himself, "Now I can wait. Now I can wait." The attendant came to tell me, so I ran down at once to have a look at him. He was still in the straight waistcoat and in the padded room, but the suffused look had gone from his face, and his eyes had something of their old pleading. I might almost say cringing softness. I was satisfied with his present condition and directed him to be relieved. The attendants hesitated, but finally carried out my wishes without protest. It was a strange thing that the patient had humor enough to see their distrust, for, coming close to me, he said in a whisper, all the while looking furtively at them, "They think I could hurt you. Fancy me hurting you, the fools." It was soothing somehow to the feelings to find myself dissociated even in the mind of this poor madman from the others. But all the same, I do not follow his thought. Am I to take it that I have anything in common with him, so that we are, as it were, to stand together? Or has he to gain from me some good so stupendous that my well-being is needful to him? I must find out later on. Tonight he will not speak. Even the offer of a kitten or a full-grown cat will not tempt him. He will only say, "I don't take any stock in cats. I have more to think of now, and I can wait." can wait. After a while, I left him. The attendant tells me that he was quiet until just before dawn, and that then he began to get uneasy, and at length violent, until at last he fell into a paroxysm, which exhausted him so that he swooned into a sort of coma. 3 nights, as the same thing happened. Violent all day, then quiet from moonrise to sunrise. I wish I could get some clue as to the cause. It would almost seem... Hey, off it. Cannot stand on the keep. You know you cannot stand on the keyboard. Come on. There you go. Thank you. 3 nights, the same thing has the same thing happened. Violent all day, then quiet from moonrise to sunrise. I wish I could get some clue to the cause. It would almost seem as if there was some influence which came and went. Happy thought. We shall tonight play sane wits against mad ones. He escaped before without our help. Tonight he shall escape with it. We shall give him a chance, and have the men ready to follow in case they are required. 23rd of August. The unexpected always happens. As how well Disraeli knew life. Our bird, when he found the cage open, would not fly, so all our subtle arrangements were for naught. At any rate, we have proved one thing, that spells of quietness last a reasonable time. We shall in future be able to ease his bonds for a few hours each day. I have given orders to the night attendant to merely to shut him in the padded room when once he is quiet until an hour before sunrise. Poor soul's body will enjoy the relief even if his mind cannot appreciate it. Hark! The unexpected again. I am called. The patient has once more escaped. Later. Another night adventure. Renfield artfully waited until the attendant was entering the room to inspect. Then he dashed out past him and flew down the passage. I sent word for the attendants to follow. Again he went into the grounds of the deserted house. We found him in the same place, pressed against the old chapel door. When he saw me, he became furious. Had not the attendant seized him in time, he would have tried to kill me. As we were holding him, a strange thing happened. He suddenly redoubled his efforts, and then as suddenly grew calm. I looked round instinctively, but could see nothing. Then I caught the patient's eye and followed it. We could trace nothing as it looked into the moonlit sky, except a big bat, which was flapping its silent and ghostly way to the west. Bats usually wheel and flit about, but this one seemed to go straight on, as if it knew where it was bound. For, had some intention of its own. The patient grew calmer every instant, and presently said, "You needn't tie me. I shall go quietly." Without trouble, we came back to the house. I feel there is something ominous in his calm, and shall not forget this night. Lucy Westenra's diary. Killingham, 24th of August. I must imitate Mina and keep writing things down. Then we can have long talks when we do meet. I wonder when it will be. I wish you were with me again, for I feel so unhappy. Last night I seemed to be dreaming again, just as I was at Whitby. Perhaps it is the change of air or getting home again. It is all dark and horrid to me, for I can remember nothing, but I am full of vague fear, and I feel so weak and worn out. When Arthur came to lunch, he looked quite grieved when he saw me, for I hadn't the spirit to try to be cheerful. I wonder if I could sleep in Mother's room tonight. I shall make an excuse and try. "25th of August. Another bad night. Mother did not seem to take my proposal. She seems not too well herself, and doubtless she fears to worry me. I tried to keep awake and succeeded for a while, but when the clock struck 12, it waked me from a doze, so I must have been falling asleep. There was a sort of scratching or flapping at the window. but I did not mind it. And as I remember no more, I suppose I must have then fallen asleep. More bad dreams. I wish I could remember them. This morning I am horribly weak. My face is ghastly pale, and my throat pains me. There must be something wrong with my lungs, for I don't ever seem to get air enough. I shall try to cheer up when Arthur comes, or else I will know he will be miserable to see me so. Letter, Arthur Holmwood to Dr. Seward. Albemarle Hotel, 31st of August. My dear Jack, I want you to do me a favor. Lucy is ill. That is, she has no special disease, but she looks awful and is getting worse every day. I have asked her if there is any cause. I do not dare to ask her mother, for disturb the poor lady's mind about her daughter in her present state of health would be fatal. Miss Westenra has confided in me that her dorm is spoken, a disease of the heart, though poor Lucy does not know it yet. But has confided in me that her doom is spoken, disease of the heart, though poor Lucy does not know it yet. I am sure that there is something preying on my dear girl's mind. I am almost distracted when I think of her. To look at her gives me a pang. I told her I should ask you to see her. And though she demurred at first, I know why, old fellow, she finally consented. It will be a painful task for you, I know, old friend, but it is for her sake. And I must not hesitate to ask, or you to act. You are to come to lunch at Hillington tomorrow, 2 o'clock, so as not to arouse any suspicion in Mrs. Westenra. And after lunch, Lucy will take an opportunity of being alone with you. I shall come in for tea, and we can go away together. I am filled with anxiety, and I want to consult with you alone as soon as I can after you have seen her. Do not fail, Arthur. Telegram, Arthur Holmwood to Seward. 1 September. Am summoned to see my father, who is worse. Am writing. Write me fully by tonight's post to ring. Wire me if necessary. Letter from Dr. Seward to Arthur Holmwood, 2nd of September. My dear old fellow, with regard to Miss Westenra's health, I hasten to let you know at once that, in my opinion, there is not any functional disturbance or any malady that I know of. At the same time, I am not by any means satisfied with her appearance. Woefully different from what she was when I saw her last. Of course, you must bear in mind that I did not have full opportunity of examination such as I should wish. My very friendship makes a little difficulty which not even medical science or custom can bridge over. I had better tell you exactly what happened, leaving you to draw, in a measure, your own conclusions. I shall then say what I have done and propose doing. I found Miss Westenra in seemingly gay spirits. Her mother was present, and in a few seconds I made up my mind that she was trying all she knew to mislead her mother and prevent her from being anxious. I have no doubt she guesses, if she does not know, what need of caution there is. We lunched alone, and as we all exerted ourselves to be cheerful, we got, as some kind of reward for our labors, some real cheerfulness amongst us. Then Mrs. Westenra went to lie down, and Lucy left with me. We went into her boudoir, Until we got there, her gaiety remained. The servants were coming and going. As soon as the door was closed, however, the mask fell from her face. She sank down into a chair with a great sigh and hid her eyes with her hand. When I saw that her high spirits had failed, I at once took advantage of her reaction to make a diagnosis. She said to me very sweetly, "I cannot tell you how I loathe talking about myself." I reminded her that a doctor's confidence was sacred, but that you were grievously anxious about her. She caught on to my meaning at once and settled that matter in a word. Tell Arthur everything you choose. I do not care for myself, but all for him. So I am quite free. I could easily see that she was somewhat bloodless, but I could not see the usual anemic signs, and by a chance I was actually able to test the quality of her blood. For in an open window which was which was a for an opening in a window for an opening a window which was stiff, a cord gave way, and she cut her hand slightly with broken glass. It was a slight matter in itself, but it gave me an evident chance, and I secured a few drops of blood and have analyzed them. Qualitative analysis gives quite a normal condition and shows, I should infer, in itself a vigorous state of health. In other matters, I was quite satisfied that there is no need for anxiety, but as there must be a cause somewhere, I have come to the conclusion that it must be something mental. She complains of difficulty in breathing satisfactorily at times, and of heavy, lethargic sleep, dreams that frighten her, but regarding which she can remember nothing. She says that as a child she used to walk in her sleep, and that when in Whitby the habit came back, and that once she walked out into the night and went to East Cliff where Miss Murray found her. But she assures me that of late the habit has not returned. I am in doubt, and so have done the best thing I know of. I have written my old friend and master, Professor Van Helsing of Amsterdam, who knows as much about obscure diseases as anyone in the world. I have asked him to come over. As you told me that all things were to be at your charge, I have mentioned to him who you are and your relations to Miss Westenra. This, my dear fellow, is in obedience to your wishes, for I am only too proud and happy to do anything I can for her. Van Helsing would, I know, do anything for me for a personal reason, so no matter on what ground he comes, he must accept his wishes. We must accept his wishes. He is a seemingly arbitrary man, but this is because he knows what he is talking about better than anyone else. He is a philosopher and a metaphysician, and one of the most advanced scientists of his day. And he has, I believe, an absolutely open mind. This, with an iron nerve, a temper of the ice brook, an indomitable resolution, self-command, and toleration exalted from virtues to blessings, and the kindliest and truest heart that beats. These form his equipment for the noble work that he is doing for mankind. Work both in theory and practice, for his views are as wide as his all-embracing sympathy. I tell you these facts that you may know why I have such confidence in him. I have asked him to come at once. I shall see you to Miss Westenra tomorrow again. She is to meet me at the stores so that I may not alarm her mother by too early repetition of my call. Yours always, John Seward. Letter, Abraham Van Helsing, M.D., D.Ph., D. Lit., D., etc., to Dr. Seward, 2nd of September. My good friend, when I have received your letter, I am already coming to you. By good fortune, I can leave just at once without wrong to any of those who have trusted. For fortune other, then it would be bad for those who have trusted. For I come to my friend when he calls to aid those he holds dear. Tell your friend that when the time you sucked from my wound so swiftly, the time you sucked from my wound so swiftly, the poison of the gangrene from that knife that our other friend, too nervous, let slip, you did more for him when he wants my aids, and you call for them, than all his great fortune could do. But it is pleasure added to do for him, your friend. It is to you that I come. Have then rooms for me at the Great Eastern Hotel, so that I may be near to hand. Oh, madam, excuse me. So that I may be near to hand, and please it so arrange that we may see the young lady not too late on tomorrow, for it is likely that I may have to return here that night. But if need be, I shall come again in 3 days, and stay longer if I must. If it must. Till then, goodbye, my friend John. Van Helsing. Letter, Dr. Seward to Honorable Arthur Holmwood. 3rd of September. My dear Art, Van Helsing has come and gone. He came on with me to Hillingham and found that, by Lucy's discretion, her mother was lunching out, so that we were alone with her. Van Helsing made a very careful examination of the patient. He is to report to me, and I shall advise you, for of course I was not present all the time. He is, I fear, much concerned, but he says he must think. When I told him of our friendship, and how you trust me in the matter, he said, "You must tell him all you think. Tell him what I think, if you can guess it, if you will. Nay, I am not jesting. This is no jest, but life and death, perhaps more." I asked what he meant by that, for he was very serious. This is when we had come back to town, and he was having a cup of tea before starting his return to Amsterdam. He would not give me any further clue. You must not be angry with me, Art, because his reticence means that all his brains are working for her good. He will speak plainly enough when the time comes, to be sure. So I told him that I would simply write an account of our visit, just as if I were doing a descriptive special article for the Daily Telegraph. He seemed not to notice, but remarked that the smuts in London were not quite so bad as they used to be when he was a student here. I am to get his report tomorrow, if he can possibly make it. In any case, I am to have a letter. Well, as to the visit, Lucy was more cheerful than on the day when I first saw her, and certainly looked better. She had lost something of the ghastly look that so upset you, and her breathing was normal. She was very sweet to the professor, as she always is, and tried to make him feel at ease, though I could see that the poor girl was making a hard struggle for it. I believe Van Helsing saw it too, for I saw the quick look under his bushy brows that I knew of old. Then he began to chat of all things except ourselves and diseases, with such infinite geniality that I could see poor Lucy's pretense of animation verge into reality. Then, without any seeming change, he brought the conversation gently round to his visit, and suavely said, "My dear young miss, I have the so great pleasure because you are so much beloved. That is much, my dear. Ever were there that which I do not see. They told me you were down in spirit, and that you were of a ghastly pale. To them I said, poof!" And he snapped his fingers and went on. "But you and I shall show them how wrong they are. How can he," and he pointed at me with the same look and gesture as which one might be pointed out, with which he once pointed me out into his class, on or rather after a particular occasion which he never fails to remind me of, "know anything of a young lady's? He has his madmans to play with, and to bring them back to happiness, and to those that love them. It is much to do, and all, but there are rewards, in that we can bestow such happiness. But the young ladies, he has no wife, nor daughter, and the young do not tell themselves to the young, but to the old, like me, who have known so many sorrows and the causes of them. So, my dear, we will send him away to smoke a cigarette in the garden, whiles you and I have a little talk all to ourselves." I took the hint and strolled about, and presently the professor came to the window and called me in. He looked grave, but said, "I have made careful examination, but there is no functional cause. With you I agree, there has been much blood lost. It has been, but it's not. But the conditions of her are in no way anemic. I have asked her to send me her maid, that I may just ask just one or two questions, so I may not chance to miss nothing. I know well what she will say, and yet there is cause, for there is always cause for everything. I must go back home and think. You must send me the telegram every day, and if there be cause, I shall come again. The disease, but not to be all well as a disease, interests me, and the street young dear, she interests me too. She charmed me, and for her, if not for your disease, I come." As I tell you, he would not say a word more, even when we were alone. And so now, Art, you know all I know. I shall keep a stern watch. I trust your poor father is rallying. It must be a terrible thing to you, my dear old fellow, to be placed in such a position between two people who are both so dear to you. I know your idea of duty to your father, and you are right, to stick to it. But if need be, I shall send you word at once to come to Lucy. Do not be over anxious unless you hear from me. Dr. Seward's diary, 4th of September. Zufega's patient still keeps our interest in him. He had only one outburst, and that was yesterday at an unusual time. Just before the stroke of noon, he began to grow restless. The attendant knew the symptoms and at once summoned aid. Fortunately, the men came at a run and were just in time, for at the stroke of noon he became so violent that it took all of their strength to hold him. In about 5 minutes, however, he began to get more and more quiet, and finally sank into a sort of melancholy, in which state he has remained up till now. The attendant tells me that his screams whilst in the paroxysm were really appalling. I found my hands full when I got in, attending some of the other patients who were frightened by him. Indeed, I can quite understand the effect. The sounds disturbed even me, though I was some distance away. It is now after the dinner hour of the asylum, and as yet my patient sits in a corner brooding, with dull, sullen, woe-begone look on his face, which seems rather to indicate than to show something directly. I cannot quite understand it. Later, another change in my patient. At 5 o'clock I looked in on him, and found him seemingly as happy and contented as he used to be. He was catching flies and eating them, and was keeping note of his capture by making nail marks on the edge of the door between ridges of padding. When he saw me, he came over and apologized for his bad conduct, and asked me in a very humble, cringing way to be led back to his old room and to have his notebook again. I thought it well to humor him, so he is back in his room with the window open. He has the sugar of his tea spread out on the windowsill, and is reaping quite a harvest of flies. He is not now eating them, but putting them into a box, as of old, and is already examining the corners of his room to find a spider. I tried to get him to talk about the past few days, for any clue about his thoughts would be of immense help to me. But he would not rise. For a moment or two he looked very sad, and said in a sort of faraway voice, as though saying it rather to himself than to me, "All over, all over. He has deserted me. No hope for me now unless I do it for myself." Then, suddenly turning to me in a resolute way, he said, "Doctor, won't you be very good to me and let me have a little more sugar? I think it would be good for me." "And the flies?" I said. "Yes, the flies like it too, and I like the flies. Therefore I like it." And there are people who know so little as to think that madmen do not argue. I procured him a double supply, and left him as happy a man as I suppose any in the world. I wish I could fathom his mind. Midnight. Another change in him. I had been to see Miss Westerner, whom I found much better, and had just returned, and was standing at her own gate looking at the sunset, when once more I heard him yelling. As his room is on this side of the house, I could hear it better than in the morning. It was a shock to me to turn from the wonderful smoky beauty of a sunset over London, with its lurid lights and inky shadows, and all the marvelous tints that come on foul clouds, even as on foul weather, and to realize all the grim sternness of my own stone-cold building, with its wealth of breathing misery, and my own desolate heart to endure it all. I reached him just as the sun was going down, and from his window saw the red disk sink. As it sank, he became less and less frenzied. Just as it dipped, he slid from the hands that held him, an inert mass on the floor. It is wonderful, however, what intellectual recuperative power attendant lunatics have, for within a few minutes he stood up quite calmly and looked around him. I signaled to the attendants not to hold him, for I was anxious to see what he would do. He went straight out, over to the window, and brushed out the crumbs of sugar. Then he took his fly box, emptied it outside, and threw away the box. Then he shut the window and, crossing over, sat down on the bed. All this surprised me, so I asked him, "Are you not going to keep flies any more?" "No," said he. "I'm sick of all that rubbish." He certainly is a wonderfully interesting study. I wish I could get some glimpse of his mind, or just the cause of his sudden passion. Stop. There may be a clue after all. If we can find why today's paroxysms came on at high noon and at sunset, can it be that there is a malign influence of the sun at periods which affect certain natures, such as at times the moon does others? We shall see. All right, we'll pause there for a little bit. The ads are almost on top of us. And we'll be back in just a few minutes. See you soon, everybody. and we're back. Sorry about the alert flipping off on the screen, but I forgot to turn it back on for that. So my apologies. Hopefully you were still able to get enough information to know what kind it was, but we are back. Okay. I do apologize, guy. Tell you what, I'll turn it right on. I'll turn the alerts back on. You do another one, see what you get. All right.
You must gather your party before venturing forth.
There you go. Then you got a plus one to your party. All right. Let us continue. Telegram, Seward, London to Van Helsing, Amsterdam. 4th of September. Patient still better today. Telegram, Seward, London to Van Helsing, Amsterdam, 5th September. Patient greatly improved. Good appetite, sleeps naturally, good spirits, color coming back. Telegram, Seward, London, Van Helsing, Amsterdam. 6th of September. Terrible change for the worse. Come at once, do not lose an hour. I hold over every telegram to Homewood till I have seen you. Oh, you're really short, really close to the end of that chapter. Oh, wow. Chapter 10. Letter, Dr. Seward to Honorable Arthur Homewood. My dear Art, my news today is not so good. Lucy this morning had gone back a bit. There is, however, one good thing which has arisen from it. Mrs. Westerner was actually anxious concerning Lucy and has consulted me professionally about her. I took advantage of the opportunity and told her that my old master Van Helsing, the great specialist, was coming to stay with me, and that I would put her in his charge conjointly with myself, so now we can come and grow without alarming her unduly, for a shock to her would mean sudden death, and this, in Lucy's weak condition, might be disastrous to her as well. We are hedged in with difficulties, all of us, my poor dear fellow, but please God, we shall come through them all right. But please God, we shall come through them all right. If any need I shall write. If any need I shall write, so that, if you do not hear from me, take it for granted that I am simply waiting for news. In haste, yours ever, John Seward. Dr. Seward's Diary, 7th of September. The first thing Van Helsing said to me when we met at Liverpool Street was, "Have you said anything to our young friend, the lover of her?" "No," I said. "I waited till I had seen you, as I said in my telegram. I wrote him a letter simply telling him that you were coming, as Miss Westerner was not so well, and that I should let him know if need be." "Right, my friend," he said, "quite right. Better he not know as yet. Perhaps he shall never know. I pray so, but if it be needed, then he shall know all. And, my good friend John, let me caution you. You deal with the madmen. All men are mad in some way or the other, inasmuch as you deal discreetly with your madmen, so deal with God's madmen too, the rest of the world. You tell not your madmen what you do, nor why you do it. You tell them not what you think. So you shall keep knowledge in its place, where it may rest, where it may gather its kind around and breed. You and I shall keep as yet what we know here and here." Touched me on the heart and on the forehead, and then touched himself in the same way. "I have for myself thoughts at the present. Later I shall unfold to you." "Why not now?" I asked. It may do some good. We may arrive at some decision." He stopped and looked at me and said, "My friend John, when the corn is grown, even before it has ripened, while the milk of its mother earth is in him, and the sunshine has not yet begun to paint him with his gold, the husbandman he pull the ear and rub them between his rough hands, and blow away the green chaff, and say to you, 'Look, he's good corn. You will make a good crop when the time comes. I did not see the application and told him so. For reply, he reached over and took my ear in his hand and pulled it playfully, as he used to so long ago do at lectures, and said, "The good husbandman tell you so because he knows, not till then. But you do not find the good husbandman dig up his planted corn to see if he grow. But that is the children who play at husbandry, not for those who take it as the work of their life. See you now, friend John? I have sown my corn, and nature has her work to do in making it sprout. For he sprout at all, there's some promise. And I wait till the ear begins to swell." He broke off, for he evidently saw that I understood, and he went on, and very gravely, "You were always a careful student, and your casebook was ever more full than the rest. You were only student then, now you are master, and I trust that good habit have not failed. Remember, my friend, that knowledge is stronger than memory, and we should not trust the weaker. Even if you have not kept the good practice, let me tell you that this case of our dear miss is one that may be, mind, I say may be, of such interest to us and others that all the rest may not make him kick the beam, as your people say. Take then good note of it. Nothing is too small. I counsel you, put down in record even your doubts and surmises. Hereafter it may be of interest to you to see how true you guess. We learn from failure, not from success." When I described Lucy's symptoms, the same as before, but infinitely more marked, he looked very grave, but said nothing. He took with him a bag in which there were many instruments and drugs, the ghastly paraphernalia of our beneficial trade, as he once called in one of his lectures, the equipment of a professor of the healing craft. When we were shown in, Miss Westerner met us. She was alarmed, but not nearly so much as I expected to find her. Nature, in one of her beneficent moods, has ordained that even death has some antidote to its own terrors. Here, in a case where any shock may prove fatal, matters are so ordered that from some cause to another, the things not personal, even the terrible change in her daughter, to whom she is so attached, do not seem to reach her. It is something like the way Dame Nature gathers round a foreign body an envelope of some insensitive tissue which can protect from evil that which it would otherwise harm by contact. It is, if this be an ordered selfishness, then we should pause before we condemn any one of the vice of egoism, for there may be deeper root in its causes than we have knowledge of. I used my knowledge of this phase of spiritual pathology, and laid down a rule that she should not be present with Lucy or think of her illness more than was absolutely required. She assented readily, so readily that I saw again the hand of nature fighting for life. Van Helsing and I were shown up to Lucy's room. I was shocked when I saw her yesterday. If I was shocked when I saw her yesterday, I was horrified when I saw her today. It was ghastly, chalkily pale. The red seemed to have gone even from her lips and gums, and the bones of her face stood out prominently. Her breathing was painful to see or hear. Van Helsing's face grew set as marble, and his eyebrows converged till they almost touched over his nose. Lucy remained motionless, and did not seem to have the strength to speak. So for a while we were all silent. Then Van Helsing beckoned to me, and we went gently out of the room. The instant we had closed the door, he stepped quickly along the passage to the next door, which was open. Then he pulled me quickly in with him and closed the door. "My God," he said, "this is dreadful. There is no time to be lost. She will die for sheer want of blood to keep the heart's action as it should be. There should be transfusion of blood at once. Is it you or me?" "I'm younger and stronger, Professor. It must be me." "Then get ready at once. I will bring up my bag. I am prepared." I went downstairs with him, and as we were going, there was a knock at the hall door. When we reached the hall, the maid had just opened the door, and Arthur was quickly stepping in. He rushed up to me, saying with an eager whisper, "Jack, I was so anxious. I read between the lines of your letter and have been in an agony. The dad was better, so I... The dad was better. The dad was better, so I ran down here to see for myself. Is not that gentleman Dr. Van Helsing? I am so thankful to you, sir, for coming." When first the professor's eye had lit upon him that he might be lit upon him had he been angry at his interruption at such a time, but now he took in his stalwart proportions and recognized the strong young manhood which seemed to emanate from him. His eyes gleamed. Without a pause, he said to him gravely, and held out his hand, "Sir, you have come in time. For you are the lover of our dear miss. She is bad, very, very bad. Nay, my child, do not go like that." For he suddenly grew pale and sat down in a chair almost fainting. "You are to help her. You can do more than any that live, and your courage is your best help." "What can I do?" asked Arthur hoarsely. "Tell me, and I shall do it. My life is hers, and I would give the last drop of blood in my body for her." The professor has a strongly humorous side, and I could from old knowledge detect a trace of its origin in his answer. "My young sir, I do not ask so much as that. Not the last." "What shall I do?" There was a fire in his eyes, and his own open nostril quivered with intent. Van Helsing slapped him on the shoulder. "Come," he said. "You are a man, and it is a man we want. You are better than me, better than my friend John." Arthur looked bewildered, and the professor went on by explaining in a kindly way. "Young miss is bad, very bad. She wants blood, and blood she must have, or die. My friend John and I have consulted. We were about to perform what we call a transfusion of blood, transfer from full veins of one to the empty veins which pine for him. John was to give his blood, as he is more young and stronger than me." Here Arthur took my hand and wrung it hard in silence. "But now you are here, and you are more good than us, old or young, who toil much in the world of thought. Our nerves are not so calm, and our blood not so bright as yours." Arthur turned to him and said, "If you only knew how gladly I would die for her, you would understand." He stopped with a sort of choke in his voice. "Good boy," said Van Helsing. "In the not so far off, you will be happy that you have done all for her that you love. Now come and be silent. You shall kiss her once before it is done, but then you must go, and you must leave at my sign. Say no word to madam. You know how it is with her. There must be no shock or any knowledge of this would-be one. Come." We all went to Lucy's room. Arthur, by direction, remained outside. Lucy turned her head and looked at us, but she said nothing. She was not asleep, but she was simply too weak to make the effort. Her eyes spoke to us, that was all. Van Helsing took some things from his bag, then laid them on a little table out of sight. Then he mixed a narcotic, and coming over to the bed, said cheerily, "Now, little miss, here is your medicine. Drink it off like a good child. See, I lift you so that the swallow is easy, yes?" She had made the effort with success. It astonished me how long the drug took to act. This, in fact, marked the extent of her weakness. Time seemed endless until sleep began to flicker in her eyelids. At last, however, the narcotic began to manifest its potency, and she fell into a deep sleep. When the professor was satisfied, he called Arthur into the room and bade him strip off his coat. Then he added, "You may take that one little kiss whilst I bring over the table. Friend John helped to me," so that neither of us looked whilst he bent over her. Van Helsing, turning to me, said, "He is so young and strong and of blood so pure that we need not defibrinate it." Fibrinate, said anyone. Transfusions, they even... I am now curious. Oh, we got dogs trying to play in the background. Remove fibrin from blood. Huh. I huh. This is gonna go into some old school medicine that I may not know anything about. Then, with swiftness, but with absolute method, Van Helsing performed the operation. Oh, well, hello, Ruby. Welcome in, everybody. I hope you're all doing quite well. Let me give you a quick little shout out. Welcome in, welcome in. I hope that you're doing well. I see you were playing mouthwashing. I hope in every polite and gentle way I can say this, I hope it hurt. I hope you had an excellent time with the game. I hope that you experienced it properly. I won't say enjoyed it, but I hope that you appreciated it. But welcome in. Thank you for the raid. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Morden. I'm Old Man Voidside Mechanic, variety streamer, voice actor. I go by he, him. Welcome on in. Tonight, I am reading from Bram Stoker's Dracula. Oh, it did hurt a lot? That's good. I say that with all love because I've played that game now twice. It hurts very, very nicely. There's so many wonderful little touches in that game. And at some point, I would love to talk to you about it. It is meticulously crafted and just absolutely fantastic. Hello, Jack. And that's hiding. Yes, that's where you're at. Uh it's a really, really well made game. I highly approve of it. I highly appreciate it. But yeah, welcome in. If you do need to take a break, post stream stuff, get a drink, go to the bathroom, do whatever it is you need to do, please do take care of yourselves. Yeah, let it percolate. Let it I'd say let it stew, more like let it fester, I suppose. But yeah. And when you're ready, I will happily talk to you about that because it was very, very fantastic. But yeah, let me see if I can. I did old Swansea when I was doing it with some other folks. I did voice like this for Swansea. Swansea. But yeah, so what we're doing here tonight is I'm reading Bram Stoker's Dracula. We're currently in chapter 10. The previous sessions have already been are on my VODs. I am putting them up onto YouTube into a collection. They're not up there yet, but they will be soon. But yeah, welcome in. I hope you had a wonderful time, and I will be continuing on with the stream. So I've turned all the sound alerts off, the raid alerts off, so that it doesn't get in the way of me reading. I will be only checking chat every so often when I'm reading, so just so you know, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just focusing on reading the book. Yeah, Jag, that sounds about right. Yeah, so many needed a hug. But I'm glad you got to experience mouth washing and have some fun with your emotions for the next little bit. In the meantime, we're about to go into some questionable medicines from the late 19th century. Won't that be fun? Then, with swiftness but with absolute method, Van Helsing performed the operation. As the transfusion went on, something like life seemed to come back to poor Lucy's cheeks, and through Arthur's growing pallor, the joy of his face seemed absolutely to shine. After a bit, I began to grow anxious, for the loss of blood was telling on Arthur, strong man as he was. It gave me an idea of what a terrible strain Lucy's system must have undergone, that what weakened Arthur only partially restored her. but the professor's face was set, and he stood watch in hand with his eyes fixed now on the patient and now on Arthur. I could hear my own heartbeat. Presently, he said in a soft voice, "Do not stir in an instant. It is enough. You attend him. I will look to her." When all was over, I could see how much Arthur was weakened. I dressed the wound and took his arm to bring him away, and Van Helsing spoke without turning around, advancing to have eyes on the back of his head. "The brave lover, I think, deserve another kiss, which he shall have presently." And as he had now finished his operation, he adjusted the pillow to the patient's head. As he did so, the narrow black velvet band which she seems to always wear around her throat, buckled with an old diamond buckle which her lover had given her, was dragged a little up and showed a red mark on her throat. Arthur did not notice it, but I could hear the deep hiss of indrawn breath, which is one of Miss Van Helsing's ways of betraying emotion. He said nothing for a moment, but turned to me, saying, "Now take down our brave young lover, give him the port wine, and let him lie down for a while. He must then go home and rest, sleep much and eat much, that he may be recruited of what he has given to his love. He must not stay here. Hold a moment. I may take it, sir, that you are anxious of result. Then bring it with you that in all ways the operation is successful. You have saved her life this time, and you can go home and rest easy in mind that all that can be is. That all that can be is. I shall tell her all when she is well. She shall love you none the less for what you have done. Goodbye." When Arthur had gone, I went back to the room. Lucy was sleeping gently, but her breathing was stronger. I could see the counterpane move as her breast heaved. By the bedside sat Van Helsing, looking at her intently. The velvet band again covered the red mark. I asked the professor in a whisper, "What do you make of that mark on her throat?" "What do you make of it?" "I have not examined it yet," I answered, and then and there proceeded to loose the band. Just over the external jugular vein there were 2 punctures, not large, but not wholesome looking. There was no sign of disease, but the edges were white and worn-looking, as if by some trituration. It at once occurred to me that this wound, or whatever it was, might be the means of that manifest loss of blood. But I abandoned the idea as soon as formed, for such a thing could not be. The whole bed would have been drenched to a scarlet with the blood which the girl must have lost to leave such a pallor as she had before the transfusion. "Well," said Van Helsing. "Well," said I can make nothing of it." The professor stood up. "I must go back to Amsterdam tonight," he said. "There are books and things there which I want. You must remain here all the night. You must not let your sight pass from her." "Shall I have a nurse?" I asked. "We are the best nurses, you and I. You keep watch all night, see that she is well fed, and that nothing disturbs her. You must not sleep all the night. Later on, we can sleep, you and I. I shall be back as soon as possible, and then we may begin." "May begin?" I said. "What on earth do you mean?" "We shall see," he answered, and as he hurried out, he came back a moment later to put his head inside the door and said with a warning finger held up, "Remember, she is your charge. If you leave her and home before, you shall not sleep easy hereafter." Dr. Seward's diary continued. 8th of September. I sat up all night with Lucy. The opiate worked itself off towards dusk, where she waked naturally. She looked a different being from what she had been before the operation. Her spirits even were good, and she was full of a happy vivacity I could see evidences of the absolute prostration which she had undergone. I told Miss Westenra that Dr. Van Helsing had directed that I should sit up with her. She almost pooh-poohed the idea, pointing out that her daughter's renewed strength and excellent spirits. I was firm, however, and made preparations for my long vigil. When her maid had prepared her for the night, I came in, having in the meantime had supper, and took a seat by the bedside. She did not in any way make objection, but looked at me gratefully whenever I caught her eye. After a long spell, she seemed sinking off to sleep. With an effort, seemed to pull herself together and shook it off. This was repeated several times with greater effort and with shorter pauses as the time moved on. It was apparent that she did not want to sleep, so I tackled the subject once. You do not want to go to sleep? No, I'm afraid. Afraid to go to sleep? Why so is the boon we all crave for. Not if you were like me. If sleep was to you a presage of horror. A presage of horror? What on earth do you mean? I don't know. Oh, I don't know. And that is what is so terrible. All this weakness comes to me in sleep until I dread the very thought. But, my dear girl, you may sleep tonight. I am here watching you, and I can promise that nothing will happen. I can trust you. I seized the opportunity and said, I promise you that if I see any evidence of bad dreams, I will wake you at once. You will? Oh, will you really? How good you are to me. Then I will sleep. And almost at the word, she gave a deep sigh of relief, sank back asleep. All night I watched by her. She never stirred, but slept on in a deep, tranquil, life-giving, health-giving sleep. Her lips were slightly parted, and her breast rose and fell with the regularity of a pendulum. There was a smile on her face, and it was evident that no bad dreams had come to disturb her peace of mind. In the early morning, her maid came, and I left her I left her in her care, and took myself back home, for I was anxious about many things. I sent a short wire to Van Helsing and to Arthur, telling them of the excellent result of the operation. My own work, with its manifold arrears, took me all day to clear off. It was dark when I was able to inquire about my zoophagous patient. The report was good. He had been quite quiet for the past day and night. A telegram came from Van Helsing at Amsterdam whilst I was at dinner, suggesting that I should be at Hillingham tonight, as it may well be, as it might be well to be at hand, and stating that he was leaving by the night mail and would join me early in the morning. 9th of September. I was pretty tired and worn out when I got to Hillingham. For 2 nights I had had hardly a wink of sleep. My brain was beginning to feel that numbness which marks cerebral exhaustion. Lucy was up and in cheerful spirits. When she shook hands with me, she looked sharply in my face and said, No sitting up tonight for you. You are worn out, and I am quite well again. Indeed, I am. And if there is to be any sitting up, it is I who sit up with you. I would not argue the point, but went and had my supper. Lucy came with me, and, enlivened by her charming presence, I made an excellent meal and had a couple of glasses of the more than excellent port. Then Lucy took me upstairs and showed me a room next to her own, where a cozy fire was burning. Now, she said, you must stay here. I shall leave this door open, and my door too. You can lie on the sofa, for I know that nothing would induce any of you doctors to go to bed whilst there is a patient above the horizon. If I want anything, I shall call out, and you can come to me at once. I could not but acquiesce, for I was dog-tired, and could not have sat up had I tried. So on her renewing her promise to call me if she should want anything, I lay on the sofa and forgot all about everything. Lucy Westenra's diary, 9th of September. I feel so happy tonight. I've been so miserably weak that to be able to think and move about is like feeling sunshine after a long spell of east wind out of a steel sky. Somehow Arthur feels very, very close to me. I seem to feel his presence warm about me. I suppose that it is sickness and weakness are selfish things and turn our inner eyes and sympathy on ourselves, whilst health and strength give love rein, and in thought and feeling he can wander where he wills. I know where my thoughts are. If Arthur only knew. My dear, your ears must tingle as you sleep, as mine do waking. Oh, the blissful rest of last night. How I slept with that dear, good Dr. Seward watching me. And tonight I shall not fear to sleep, since he is close at hand and within call. Thank everybody for being so good to me. Thank God. Good night, Arthur. Dr. Seward's diary, 10th of September. I was conscious of the professor's hand on my head and started to wake all in a second. It is one of the things that we learn in an asylum, at any rate. And how is our patient? Well, when I left her, or rather when she left me, I answered, Come, let us see, he said. And together we went into the room. The blind was down, and I went over to raise it gently, whilst Van Helsing stepped, with his soft, cat-like tread, over to the bed. As I raised the blind and the morning sunlight flooded the room, I heard the professor's low hiss of inspiration, and, knowing its rarity, deadly fear shot through my heart. As I passed over, he moved back, and his exclamation of horror, Gott in Himmel, needed no enforcement from his agonized face. He raised a hand and pointed to the bed, and his iron face was drawn and ashen white. I felt my knees begin to tremble. There, on the bed, seemingly in a swoon, lay poor Lucy, more horribly white and wan-looking than ever. Even the lips were white, and the gums seemed to have shrunken back from the teeth, as we sometimes see in a corpse after a prolonged illness. Van Helsing raised his foot to stamp in anger, but the instinct of his life, all the long years of habit, stood to him, and he put it down again softly. Quick, he said, bring the brandy. I flew into the dining room and returned with the decanter. He wetted the poor white lips with it, and together we rubbed palm and wrist and heart. He felt her heart, and after a few moments of agonizing suspense said, It is not too late. It beats, though but feebly. All our work is undone. We must begin again. There is no young Arthur here now. I have to call on you yourself this time, friend John. As he spoke, he was dipping into his bag and producing the instruments for transfusion. I had taken off my coat and rolled up my shirt sleeve. There was no possibility of an opiate just at present, and no need of one. And so, without a moment's delay, we began the operation. After a time, it did not seem a short time either. The draining away of one's blood, no matter how willingly it be given, is a terrible feeling. Van Helsing held up a warning finger. Do not stir. But I fear that with growing strength she may wake. And that would make danger, oh, so much danger. But I shall precaution take. I shall give hypodermic injection of morphia. He proceeded then swiftly and deftly to carry out his intent. The effect on Lucy was not bad, for the faint seemed to merge subtly into the narcotic sleep. It was with a feeling of personal pride that I could see a faint tinge of color steal back into the pallid cheeks and lips. No man knows till he experiences it, what it is to feel his own lifeblood drawn away into the veins of the woman he loves. The professor watched me critically. That will do, he said. Already? I remonstrated. You took a great deal more from art. To which he smiled a sad sort of smile as he replied,
He is her lover, the fiancé. You have work, much work to do for her and for others, and the present will suffice.
When we stopped the operation, he attended to Lucy, whilst I applied digital pressure to my own incision. I laid down whilst I waited his lecture to attend to me, for I felt faint and a little sick. By and by, he bound up my wound and sent me downstairs to get a glass of wine for myself. As I was leaving the room, he came after me and half whispered,
Mind, nothing must be said of this, for our young lover should turn up unexpectedly as before. No word to him. It will at once frighten him and enjealous him too. There must be none. So,
when I came back, he looked at me carefully, then said,
You are not much the worse. Go into the room and lie on your sofa and rest a while. Then have much breakfast and come here to me.
I followed his orders, for I knew how right and wise they were. I had done my part, and now my next duty was to keep up my strength. I felt very weak, and in the weakness lost something of the amazement at what had occurred. I fell asleep on the sofa, however, wondering over and over again how Lucy had made such a retrograde movement, and how she could have been drained of so much blood, with no sign anywhere to show for it. I think I must have continued my wonder in my dreams, for, sleeping and waking, my thoughts always came back to the little punctures in her throat, and the ragged, exhausted appearance of their edges, tiny though they were. Lucy slept quite well into the day, and when she woke she was fairly well and strong, though not nearly so much as the day before. When Van Helsing had seen her, he went out for a walk, leaving me in charge, with strict injunctions that I was not to leave her for a moment. I could hear his voice in the hall asking the way to the nearest telegraph office. Lucy chatted with me freely and seemed quite unconscious that anything had happened. I tried to keep her amused and interested. When her mother came up to see her, she did not seem to notice any change whatever, but said to me gratefully, "We owe you so much, Dr. Seward, for all you have done. But you really must now take care not to overwork yourself. You are looking pale yourself. You want a wife to nurse and look after you a bit, that you do." As she spoke, Lucy turned crimson, though it was only momentarily, for her poor wasted veins could not stand long such an unwanted drain to the head. The reaction came in excessive pallor as she turned imploring eyes on me. I smiled and nodded and laid my finger on my lips. With a sigh, she sank back amid her pillows. Van Helsing returned in a couple of hours and presently said to me,
Now you go home and eat much and drink enough. Make yourself strong. I stay here tonight, and I shall sit up with the little miss myself. You and I must watch the case. We must have none other to know. I have grave reasons. No, do not ask them. Think what you will. Do not fear to think, even the most not probable. Good night.
In the hall, two of the maids came to me and asked if they or either of them might not sit up with Miss Lucy. They implored me to let them, and when I said that it was Dr. Van Helsing's wish that either he or I should sit up, they asked me quite piteously to intercede with the foreign gentlemen. I was much touched by their kindness. Perhaps it is because I am weak at present, and perhaps because it was on Lucy's account that their devotion was manifested. Over and over again I have seen similar instances of woman's kindness. I got back here in time for a late dinner, went my rounds, all well, and set this down whilst waiting for sleep. It is coming. The 11th of September. This afternoon I went to Hillingham, found Van Helsing in excellent spirits and Lucy much better. Shortly after I had arrived, a big parcel from abroad came for the professor. He opened it with much impressment, assumed, of course, showed a great bundle of white flowers.
These are for you, Miss Lucy.
For me? Oh, Dr. Van Helsing!
Yes, my dear, but not for you to play with. These are medicines.
Here Lucy made a wry face.
Nay, but they are not take this in the decoction or in nauseous form. So you need not snub that so charming nose, or I shall point out to my friend Arthur what woes he may have to endure in seeing so much beauty that he loves so much to store. My pretty miss, that is to bring not so the so nice nose all straight again. This is medicinal, but you do not know how. I put him in your window. I make a pretty wreath, then hang him round your neck so that you sleep well. Oh, yes, they, like the lotus flower, make your trouble forgotten. It smells so like the waters of Lethe, and of that fountain of youth that the conquistadores sought, or in the Floridas, and find him all too late.
Whilst he was speaking, Lucy had been examining the flowers and smelling them. Now she threw them down, saying with half laughter, half disgust, "Oh, Professor, I believe you are only putting a joke on me. Why, these flowers are only common garlic." To my surprise, Van Helsing rose up and said with all his sternness, his iron jaw set and his bushy eyebrows meeting,
"No trifling with me. I never jest. There is grim purpose in all I do, and I warn you that you do not thwart me. Take care for the sake of others, if not your own."
Then, seeing poor Lucy scared, as she might well be, he went on more gently.
"Oh, little miss, my dear, do not fear me. I only do for your good. There is much virtue to you in these so common flowers. See, I place them myself in your room. I make myself the wreath that you are to wear. But hush! No telling to others that make so inquisitive questions. We must obey, and silence is a part of obedience, and obedience is to bring you strong and well into loving arms that wait for you. Now sit still a while. Come with me, friend John, and you shall help me deck the room with my guard, which is all the way from Haarlem, where my friend Vanderpool raised herb in his glass houses all the year. I had to telegraph yesterday, or they would not have been here."
We went into the room, taking the flowers with us. The professor's actions were certainly odd, and not to be found in any pharmacopoeia that I had ever heard of. First, he fastened up the windows and latched them securely. Next, taking a handful of the flowers, he rubbed them all over the sashes, as though to ensure that every whiff of air that might get in would be laden with garlic smell. Then, with the wisp, he rubbed all over the jamb of the door, above, below, and at each side, and round the fireplace in the same way. It all seemed grotesque to me, and presently I said, "Well, Professor, I know you always have a reason for what you do, but this certainly puzzles me. It is well we have no skeptic here, or he would say that you were working some spell to keep out an evil spirit."
"Perhaps I am," he answered quietly as he began to make the wreath which Lucy was to wear round her neck.
He then waited whilst Lucy made her toilet for the night. When she was in bed, he came and himself fixed the wreath of garlic round her neck. The last words he said to her were,
"Take care that you do not disturb it. Even if the room feels close, not tonight open the window or the door."
"I promise," said Lucy, "and thank you both 1,000 times for all your kindness to me. Oh, what have I done to be blessed with such friends?" As he left the house in my fly, which was waiting, Van Helsing said,
"Tonight I can sleep in peace, and sleep I want. 2 nights of travel, much reading in the day between, and much anxiety on the day to follow, and a night to sit up without a wink. Tomorrow, in the morning early, you call for me, and we come together to see our pretty miss. So much more strong for my spell, which I have to work."
He seemed so confident that I, remembering my own confidence 2 nights before, and with painful result, felt awe and vague terror. It must have been my weakness that made me hesitate to tell it to my friend, but I felt it all the more like unshed tears. Okay, let's get started on chapter 11 here. We have time. Lucy Wasenra's diary, 12th of September. Oh, how good they are all to me. I quite love that dear Dr. Van Helsing. I wonder why he was so anxious about these flowers. He positively frightened me that he was so fierce. And yet he must have been right, for I feel comfort from them already. Somehow I do not dread being alone tonight, and I can go to sleep without fear. I shall not mind any flapping outside my window. Oh, the terrible struggle that I've had against sleep so often of late. Pain of the sleeplessness, or the pain of fear of sleep, with such unknown horrors as it has for me. How blessed are some people whose lives have no fears, no dreads, to whom sleep is a blessing that comes nightly and brings nothing but sweet dreams. Well, here I am tonight, hoping for sleep, and lying like Ophelia in the play, with virgin krantz and maiden struments. I never liked chocolate before, but tonight it is delightful. There is peace in its smell. I feel sleep coming already. Good night, everyone. Dr. Seward's diary, 13th of September. Called at the Berkeley and found Van Helsing, as usual, up to time. The carriage ordered from the hotel was waiting. The professor took his bag, which he always brings with him now. Let all be put down exactly. Van Helsing and I arrived at Hillingham at 8 o'clock. It was a lovely morning. The bright sunshine and all the fresh feeling of early autumn seemed like the completion of nature's annual work. The leaves were turning all kinds of beautiful colors, but had not yet begun to drop from the tree. When we entered, we met Mrs. Westerner coming out of the morning room. She is always an early riser. She greeted us warmly and said, "You will be glad to know that Lucy is better. The dear child is still asleep. I looked into her room and saw her, but did not go in, lest I should disturb her." The professor smiled and looked quite jubilant. He rubbed his hands together and said, "Aha! I thought I had diagnosed the case. My treatment is working." To which she answered, "You must not take all the credit for yourself, doctor. Lucy's state this morning is in due part to me." "How do you mean, ma'am?" asked the professor. "Well, I was anxious about the dear child in the night, and went into her room. She was sleeping soundly, but sounded soundly, so soundly that even my coming did not wake her. But the room was awfully stuffy. There were a lot of those horrible, strong-smelling flowers about everywhere, and she actually had a bunch of them round her neck. I feared that the heavy odor would be too much for the dear child in her weak state, so I took them all away and opened a bit of the window to let in a little fresh air. You will be pleased with her, I'm sure." She moved off to her boudoir, where she usually breakfast early. As she had spoken, I watched the professor's face and saw it turn ashen gray. He had been able to retain his self-command whilst the poor lady was present, for he knew her state, and how mischievous a shock would be. He actually smiled on her as he held open the door for her to pass into her room. The instant she had disappeared, he pulled me suddenly and forcibly into the dining room and closed the door. Then, for the first time in my life, I saw Van Helsing break down. He raised his hands over his head in a sort of mute despair, and his palms together in a helpless way. Finally, he sat down in a chair and, putting his hands before his face, began to sob, with loud, dry sobs that seemed to come from the very racking of his heart. Then he raised his arms again as though appealing to the whole universe. "God! God! God!" he said. "What have we done? What has this poor thing done, that we are so sore beset? Is there fate amongst us still, sent down from the pagan world of old, that such things must be, and in such way? This poor mother, all unknowing, and all for the best as she does such thing as lose her daughter body and soul. And we must not tell her, we must not even warn her, or she die. And then both die. Oh, how we are beset! How are all the powers of the devils against us?" Suddenly he jumped to his feet. "Come," he said, "come. We must see an act. Devils or no devils, or all devils at once, it matters not. We fight them all the same." And went to the hall door for his bag, and together we went up to Lucy's room. Once again I drew up the blind, whilst Van Helsing went toward the bed. This time he did not start as he looked upon her the poor face with the same awful waxen pallor as before. He wore a look of stern sadness and infinite pity.
As I expected,
he murmured with that hissing inspiration of his which meant so much. Without a word, he went and locked the door, then began to set out a little table of instruments for yet another operation of transfusion of blood. I had long ago recognized the necessity and begun to take off my coat. But he stopped me with a warning hand.
"No," he said. "Today you must operate. I shall provide. You are weakened already."
As he spoke, he took off his coat and rolled up his shirt sleeve. Again the operation, again the narcotic, again some return of color to the ashy cheeks, and the regular breathing, healthy sleep. This time I watched while Van Helsing recruited himself and rested. Presently, he took an opportunity of telling Mrs. Westerna she must not remove anything from Lucy's room without consulting him, that the flowers were of medicinal value, and the breathing of their odor was part of the system of cure. He then took over the care of the case himself, saying that he would watch this night and the next, and would send me word when to come. After another hour, Lucy waked from her sleep, fresh and bright, and seemingly not much the worse for her terrible ordeal. What does it all mean? I began to wonder if my long habit of life amongst the insane is beginning to tell upon my own brain. Lucy Westenra's diary. 17th of September. 4 days and nights of peace. I am getting so strong again that I hardly know myself, and as if I had passed through some long nightmare and have just awakened to see the beautiful sunshine and feel the fresh air of the morning around me. I have a dim half-remembrance of long, anxious times of waiting and fearing, darkness in which there is not even the pain of hope to make the present distress more poignant. Then the long spells of oblivion, and the rising back to life as a diver going through a great press of water. Since, however, Dr. Van Helsing has been with me, all this bad dreaming seems to have passed away. The noises that used to frighten me out of my wits, the flapping against the windows, the distant voices which seemed so close to me, the harsh sounds that came from I know not where and commanded me to do I know not what, have all ceased. I go to bed now without any fear of sleep. I do not even try to keep awake. I have grown quite fond of the garlic. A boxful arrives for me every day from Haarlem. Tonight, Dr. Van Helsing is going away, as he has to be for a day in Amsterdam. But I need not be watched. I'm well enough to be left alone. Thank God for mother's sake and dear Arthur's, and for all of our friends who have been so kind. I shall not even feel the change, for last night Dr. Van Helsing slept in his chair a lot of the time. I found him asleep twice when I awoke. I did not fear to go to sleep again, although the bows or bats or something napped almost angrily against the window panes. I think that was meant to be wrapped, but the scan might have been off. I'm reading some Project Gutenberg, and every so often there's a typo that gets put in there. Sometimes it's the scanning that does it. Let's see here. Right, we're going to pause here for a moment for the ads, and we will be back in just a few minutes. See you soon, everybody. All right, and we have returned. So, let us pick up where we left off. Pall Mall Gazette, 18th of September. The Escaped Wolf. Perilous adventure of our interviewer. Interview with the keeper in the zoological gardens. After many inquiries and almost as many refusals, though perpetually using the words Pall Mall Gazette as a sort of talisman, I managed to find the keeper of the section of the zoological gardens in which the wolf department is included. Thomas Builder lives in one of the cottages in the enclosure behind the elephant house, and was just sitting down to his tea when I found him. Thomas and his wife are hospitable folk, elderly and without children. And if the specimen I enjoyed of their hospitality be of the average kind, their lives must be pretty comfortable. The keeper would not enter on what he called business until supper was over, and when we were all satisfied, then when the table was cleared, and he lit his pipe, he said, "Now, sir, you can go on and ask me all that you want. You'll excuse me refusing to talk professional subjects before meals. I give the wolves and the jackals and the hyenas and all our section their tea afore I begin to ask them questions." How do you mean, ask them questions? I queried, wishful to get him to the talkative humor. Eating of them be over the head of the pole. Eating of them over the head and the pole is one way, scratching their ears is another. Being gents is fresh with once a bit of show off their gals. I don't so much mind the fuss, eating with the whole before chucks it in the dinner. But I waits till they had their share in coffee, so to speak, of ours I tried to get with the ear scratching. Mind you, he added philosophically, there's a deal of the same nature in us as in these animals. Here's your coming and asking me questions about my business, and that I grumpy like the only for your blue enough quid, but I'd seen you blow the first before I'd answer. Not even when you asked me sarcastic like, if I'd like to go to your task superintendent, if you might ask me questions. Without offense, did I tell you to go to hell? You did. And when you said you'd report me for using obscene language, I was hitting me over the head. But the half quid made that all right. I weren't going to fight, so I waited for the food, and did what my old boars and wolves, and lions and tigers does. But oh, love you heart. Now the old woman has stuck a chunk of his tea cake in me and rinsed me out with her blubberin' old teapot. I've a lit pup. You may scratch my ears for all you're worth, and you won't even get a growl out of me. Drive along with your questions. I know what you're coming at. That there escaped wolf. Exactly. I want you to give me your view of it. Just tell me how it happened. And when I know the facts, I'll get you to say what you consider was the cause of it, and how you think the whole affair will end. All right there, Governor. This here's my old story. That here wolf is what we call Berserker. He's one of the 3 greys that come in from Norway to John which we brought him 4 years ago. He was a nice, well-behaved wolf. Never gave no trouble to talk to. I'm more surprised at him for wanting to get out than nor any animal in the place, but there you can't trust wolves no more nor women. Don't you mind him, sir, broke in Mrs. Tom with a cheery laugh. He's got minded the animal he's so long that blessed if he ain't like an old wolf himself. But there ain't no harm in him. Well, sir, it was about 2 hours after feeding yesterday when I first heard my disturbance. I was making up a litter in the monkey house for the young puma which is here. But when I heard the yelping and howling, I came straight away. Came away straight. And there was Berserker, a tearing like a mad thing at the bars, as if he wanted to get out. But there wasn't much people about that day, and close at hand was only one man, a tall, lean chap, with a hooked nose and a pointed beard, and a few white hairs running through it. He had hard, cold-looking and red eyes, and I took a sort of dislike to him, for it was as if him there was irritated at. Yeah, he had white kid gloves on his hands, and he pointed to the Emily's to me and said, "Keeper, his wolf seems upset at something." "Maybe it's you," says I. For I did not have the airs he gives himself. He didn't get angry,
as I hoped he would. But he smiled a kind of insolent smile, with a mouthful of white, sharp teeth. Oh, no, they wouldn't like me, he says. Oh, yes, they would, I said, imitating him. They always like a bone or two to clean their teeth about tea time, but you was a bagful. Well, it was an odd thing, but when the animals see us talking, they lay down. And when I went over to the berserker, he let me stroke his ear, same as ever. That there Ben came over, and blessed be if he didn't put a hand on and stroke the old wolf's ears too. Take care, says I, berserker, quick. Never mind, he says, I'm used to him. Are you in the business yourself? I says, taking off my hat, for a man who trades in wolves, and Chester is a good friend to keepers. No, says he, not exactly in the business, but I have made some pets myself. And with that, he lifts his hat as polite as the Lord and walks away. Old berserker kept a looking harder at him till he was out of sight, and then went down to lay down in the corner and wouldn't come out the whole evening. Last night, so soon as the moon's up, the wolves here all began howling. There weren't nothing for 'em to howl at. There weren't no one near except someone that was evidently calling a dog somewheres out back of the gardens in the park road. Once or twice I went out to see that was all right, and it was. And then howling stopped. But just before 12 o'clock, I took a look round before turning in, and bust me, but when I come opposite old Berserker's cage and see the rails broken and twisted about and the cage empty. And that's all I know for certain. Did anyone see anything? Did anyone else see anything? Oh, one of the gardeners was coming home about that time for an hominy, when he sees a great big dog coming out through the garden edges. At least so he says. But I don't give much for it myself. But if he never said a word to his missus about when he got home. It was only after the escape of Wolf he was made known, and we had been up all night hunting for the park for Berserker, that he remembered seeing anything. My own belief was that the harmony had got to his head. Now, Mr. Builder, can you account in any way for the escape of the wolf? Well, sir, he said with a suspicious sort of modesty, I think I can, but I don't know as how you'd be satisfied with the theory. Certainly I shall. If a man like you, who knows the animals from experience, can't hazard a good guess at any rate, who is even to try? Well, then, sirs, I account for it this way. It seems to me that Earwolf escaped simply because he wanted to get out. From the hearty way that both Thomas and his wife laughed at the joke, I could see that it had done service before, and that the whole explanation was simply an elaborate sell. I couldn't cope in badinage for the worthy Thomas, but I thought I knew a surer way to his heart, so I said, Now, Mr. Builder, we'll consider the first half-sovereign worked off, and this brother of his is waiting to be claimed when you've told me what you think will happen. Right you are, sir, he said briskly. You'll excuse me, I know, for chaffing you. The old woman winked at me, which was much as telling me to go on. Oh, I never, said the old lady. Hey, my opinion is this. That here wolf was hiding somewheres. A gardener what didn't remember said he was a galloping northward faster than a horse could go. But I don't believe him, for you see, sir, wolves don't gallop no more than nor dogs does. Nothing not being built that way. Wolves is a fine thing as a storybook, but I dare say when they get in packs and does be shivering up something that's more feared than they is of can make the devil a noise, chop it up, whatever it is. But Lord bless you, in real life, a wolf is only a low creature, not so half so clever nor no bold as a good dog, and not half a quarter so much as fighting him. This one ain't been used to fighting or even providing for himself, and more like he's somewhere round the park, a hiding and a shivering of, if he thinks at all, wondering where he's going to get his breakfast from. Or maybe he's got down some area and is in a coal cellar. My, won't some cook get a rum start when he sees his green eyes shining out the dark. If he can't get food, he's bound to look for it, and mayhap he can chance to light upon a butcher's shop in time. If he doesn't, and some nursemaid goes walking off with a soldier, leaving the infant in the perambulator, then I shouldn't be surprised if the senseless one Bobby does this, that's all.
Was handing him the half-sovereign when something came bobbing up against the window, and Mrs. Bilder's face doubled at its natural length with surprise.
"Oh, God bless me," he said. "If that ain't old Berserker come back of himself."
He went to the door and opened it. Most unnecessary proceeding, it seemed to me. I have always thought that the wild animal never looked so well as when some obstacle of pronounced durability is between us. A personal experience has intensified rather than diminished that idea. After all, there is nothing like custom. For neither Builder nor his wife thought any more of the wolf than I should a dog. The animal itself was as peaceful and well behaved as that father of all picture wolves, Red Riding Hood's quondam friend, while moving her confidence in masquerade. The whole scene was an unutterable mixture of comedy and pathos. The wicked wolf, for that half of a day, had paralyzed London and set all the children in the town shivering in their shoes. Was there in a sort of penitent mood, and received and petted like a sort of vulpine prodigal son. Old Bilger examined him all over with most tender solicitude, and when he had finished with his penitent, said,
I knew your poor old chap would be getting into some kind of trouble, didn't I say it all along? Here's his head all cut and full of broken glass. He's been getting over some bloomin' wall or other. It's a shame that people are allowed to top their walls with broken bottles. Here's what comes of it. Come along, Berserker."
He took the wolf and locked him up in a cage, with a piece of meat that satisfied, in quantity at any rate, the elementary conditions of the fat calf, and went off to report. I came off too, to report only the exclusive information that is given today regarding the strange escapade at the zoo. Dr. Seward's diary, 17th of September. I was engaged after dinner in my study, posting up my books, which, through press of other work and the many visits to Lucy, had fallen sadly into arrear. Suddenly, the door was burst open, and in rushed my patient, with his face distorted with passion. I was thunderstruck, for such a thing as a patient getting of his own accord into the superintendent's study is almost unknown. Without an instant's pause, he made straight at me. He had a dinner knife in his hand, and as I saw he was dangerous, I tried to keep the table between us. He was too quick and too strong for me, however, for before I could get my balance, he had struck at me and cut my left wrist rather severely. Before he could strike again, however, I got into my right, and he was sprawling on his back on the floor. My wrist bled freely, and quite a little pool trickled on the carpet. I saw that my friend was not intent on further effort, and occupied myself with binding my wrist, keeping a wary eye on the prostrate figure all the time. When the attendants rushed in, we turned our attention to him. His employment positively sickened me. He was lying on his belly on the floor, licking up like a dog the blood which had fallen from my wounded wrist. He was easily secured, and to my surprise, went with the attendants quite placidly, repeating over and over again, "The blood is the life! The blood is the life!" I cannot afford to lose blood just at present. I have lost too much of late for my physical good. And then the prolonged strain of Lucy's illness and its horrible phase telling on me. I am overexcited and weary, and I need rest, rest, rest. Happily, Van Helsing has not summoned me, so I need not forego my sleep. Tonight, I could not do well without it. Telegram, Van Helsing, Antwerp to Selward, Carfax. Sent to Carfax, Sussex. There's no county given, delivered late by 22 hours. 17th September.
Do not fail to be at Ellingham tonight. If not watching all the time frequently, visit and see that flowers are placed. Very important. Do not fail. Shall be with you as soon as possible after arrival.
Dr. Seward's diary, 18th of September. Just off for train to London. The arrival of Van Helsing's telegram filled me with dismay. The whole night lost, and I know by bitter experience what may happen in a night. Of course, it is possible that all may be well. But what may have? Surely there is some horrible doom hanging over us. Every possible accident should thwart us in all we try to do. I shall take the cylinder with me, and then I can complete my entry on Lucy's phonograph. Memorandum left by Lucy West. 17th September night. I write this and leave it to be seen so that no one may by any chance get into trouble through. This is an exact record of what took place tonight. I feel I am dying of weakness, and have barely the strength to write, but it must be done if I die in the doing. I went to bed as usual, taking care that the flowers were placed as Dr. Van Helsing directed, and soon fell asleep. I was waked by the flapping at the window, begun after all that sleepwalking on the cliff out at Whitby when Mina saved me, which I now know so well. I was not afraid. I did wish that Dr. Seward was in the next room, as Dr. Helsing said he would be. I might have called to him. I tried to go to sleep, but I could not. Then there came to me the old fear of sleep, and I determined to keep awake. Perversely, sleep would try to come then when I did not want it, so as I feared to be alone, I opened my door and called out, "Is anybody there?" There was no answer. I was afraid to wake Mother, and so closed my door again. Then, outside in the shrubbery, I heard a sort of howl like a dog's, but fiercer, deeper. I went to the window and looked out, but I could see nothing except a big bat which had evidently been buffeting its wings against the window. So I went back to bed again, but determined not to go to sleep. Presently, the door opened, and Mother looked in. Seeing by my moving that I was not asleep, came in, sat by me. She said to me even more sweetly and softly than her wont, "I was uneasy about you, darling, and came in to see that you were all right." I feared that she might catch cold sitting there, and asked her to come in and sleep with me. So she came into bed and lay down beside me. She did not take off her dressing gown, for she said she would only stay a while and then go back to her own bed. As she lay there in my arms, the eye in hers, the flapping and buffeting came to the window again. She was startled and a little frightened, and cried out, "Oh, what is that?" I tried to pacify her, and at last succeeded, and she lay quiet, for I could hear her poor dear heart still beating terribly. After a while there was a low howl again out in the shrubbery, and shortly after there was a crash at the window, and a lot of broken glass was hurled on the floor. The window blind blew back with the wind that rushed in, and in the aperture of the broken panes there was the head of a great, gaunt, grey wolf. Mother cried out in affright and struggled up into a sitting posture, and clutched wildly at anything that would help her. Amongst other things, she clutched 3 flowers that Dr. Van Helsing insisted on my wearing around my neck, and tore it away from me. For a second or two she sat up, pointing at the wolf, and then there was a strange and horrible gurgling in her throat. Then she fell over, as if struck by lightning, and her head hit my forehead and made me dizzy for a moment or two. The room and all round seemed to spin round. I kept my eyes fixed on the window, but the wolf drew his head back, and a whole myriad of little specks seemed to come blowing in through the broken window, and wheeling and circling round like the pillar of dust that travellers describe when there is a simoon in the desert. I tried to stir, but there was some spell on me, and dear Mother's poor body, which seemed to grow cold already, for her dear heart had ceased to beat, weighed me down, and I remembered no more for a while. The time did not seem long, but very, very awful till I recovered consciousness again. Somewhere near, a passing bell was tolling. The dogs all round the neighborhood were howling, and in our shrubbery, seemingly just outside, a nightingale was singing. I was dazed and stupid with pain and terror and weakness, but the sound of the nightingale seemed like the voice of my dead mother, come back to comfort me. The sound seemed to have awakened the maids, too, for I could hear their bare feet pattering outside my door. I called to them, and they came in, and when they saw what had happened, and what it was that lay over me on the bed, they screamed out. The wind rushed in through the broken window, and the door slammed to. They lifted off the body of my dear mother and laid her, covered up with a sheet, on the bed after I had got up. They were all so frightened and nervous that I directed them to go to the dining room and have each a glass of wine. The door flew open for an instant and closed again. The maid shrieked, and then went in a body to the dining room, and I laid what flowers I had on my dear mother's breast. When they were there, I remembered what Dr. Van Helsing had told me, but I didn't like to remove them, and besides, I would have had some of the servants to sit up with me now. I was surprised that the maids did not come back. I called them, but got no answer, and so I went to the dining room to look for them. My heart sank when I saw what happened. They all four lay helpless on the floor, breathing heavily. The decanter of sherry was on the table, half full. There was a queer smell about. I was suspicious and examined the decanter. It smelt of laudanum. And looking at the sideboard, I found that the bottle which mother's doctors uses for her, did use, was empty. What am I to do? What am I to do? I am back in the room with mother. I cannot leave her. I am alone, save for the sleeping servants, whom someone has drugged. Alone with the dead. I dare not go out, for I can hear the low howl of the wolf through the broken window. Air seems full of specks, floating and circling in the draught from the window, and the lights burn blue and dim. What am I to do? God shield me from harm this night. I shall hide this paper in my breast, for they shall find it when they come to lay me out. My dear mother gone. It is time that I go too. Goodbye, dear Arthur, if I should not survive this night. God keep you, dear, and God help me. Okay. So these streams, I usually keep on the shorter side, usually between 2 and 3 hours, just because I'm doing so many of them. I don't want to blow out my voice. Because reading for several hours can take a toll. So we will stop here at chapter 12. And I will pick up later this week. My plan is for 10 p.m. on Thursday. Just because I have some things to do before then, but we'll see what happens. I will have my schedule up on Thursday, and I will continue on with this through October. There are some 27, 28 chapters. I will probably do some additional streams of just reading. Now that I'm finished with Dragon Age of the Veilguard, I will probably move Mondays to be reading nights as well, just to help us get through this before the month ends on the 31st. And if we have to go a little bit beyond into November, it's not a big deal. But now, I'm going to turn back on all the alerts, and I will find us someone to go and raid. So, thank you all for staying with me tonight.
Badongo dislikes smoke.
Congratulations, guy, on the, I think that's a rare. Chapter 12. There we go. I'm just going to check the chapter. Hey, it is 27. Okay. Okay. So we're good. Thank you all very, very much. I'm going to find us somebody to raid. I'm going to try and see if we can find somebody who is doing something relatively calming and sedate. So I think what we'll do is I think I know who we're going to go and say hello to. We are going to go and say hello to Roshan, who is doing some Next Fest demos. Roshan is a Galactic Cloud VTuber and is a really cool person, and we're going to go say hello to them. And it should be a good time. So thank you all very, very much. I will put a raid message into the ending screen, and take care of yourselves. I will see you all whenever I next see you. Until then, take care, everybody. Have a good one. And I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye now.